the United States dominates the entire world with its military. It's pretty much their main significant use, their main significant power that they have in this world, and that's why the United States is the world's dominant power. China is slowly challenging that, but still, China's military is not as developed as the United States. But if China and Russia get along together with their mutual enemy, the United States, then there's actually something very serious to consider here. And as we have seen, China and Russia, their relationship has been growing within the past few years, as we see these proxy wars escalate and the United States trying to take out the allies and the other countries that are supporting Russia and China and going against the U.S. petrodollar, which is a major component to this that a lot of people forget. But the only reason the U.S. dollar is valued as high as it is because the world is trading in U.S. dollars. As soon as the world stops trading in U.S. dollars, the value of it goes dramatically down. Countries that have challenged it have been occupied, have been bombed, have been taken over. Their leaders have been overthrown, like in Libya, like we saw in Iraq, like we saw even Afghanistan making similar moves against, of course, the U.S. petrodollar. And this is all, of course, target. Iran has been making very strong moves against the U.S. petrodollar. So has Russia, and so has China. And this brings me to a very interesting story that I wanted to talk to you about, Jason, is, of course, this latest story of the supposed spy chip infiltration by the Chinese intelligence community that supposedly infiltrated Apple, Amazon, Homeland Security, and even the CIA. Now, Bloomberg released this article citing that this was a small spy chip that was distributed all throughout the United States, and they cited 17 unidentified intelligence officers in this initial report, saying that the Chinese intelligence community was successfully able to intercept very important information, including even to the information of how the CIA uses their drones in their deposition matrix program, which they extrajudicially assassinate people all around the world. Very key information. And now on the other side, Jason, we are seeing Homeland Security, Apple, and Amazon deny that any of this happened. What do you think is the true scenario here, Jason?
Well, I got to tell you, I am skeptical. I'm not trying to take the side of Homeland Security here, but if you read the article, there was a lot of different things. Now, first of all, in my hand here is a Huawei phone, and they become a huge competitor with Samsung. Remember, Samsung, not Chinese, it's Korean. We have much better trade relations with Korea than we do with China. Amazon, Apple, all these companies are saying it's impossible. Now, they talked about the possibility. First of all, this chip is extremely small. They showed no examples where it was actually put on boards. So again, I'm remaining pretty skeptical. And if they had said, hey, here's a full shipment, and they had pulled a car over and they had that kind of, or a truck or a shipment, that would be pretty convincing. They're saying that they got this done on the factory floor level. In other words, they were infiltrating Chinese spies who were putting this in the actual machine process. In other words, while they were bringing these baseboards to other companies that were adding different features to them and then bringing them out, they were actually putting them on. For no one to notice for that long of amount of time, they said oftentimes hidden in the RAM, is also very hard for me to believe. Not impossible. You know, spy stuff does happen. Hardware hacks, as they note in the article, are something they're not as, hardcore on the lookout for. But, for me, a company like Huawei, I think that they have more of an interest in making money and be competitive in that market, Luke, than doing spy work for the Chinese government.
Money is a huge component to this, especially with the trade wars that are going back and forth between China and the United States right now, which are also heating up. But looking at this report critically, I don't see Bloomberg as bad of a news organization as the other ones who are out there. They don't usually promote as much fake news. I don't see any reason for Bloomberg to lie about this. It could be that the 17 unidentified intelligence officers they could be possibly not telling the truth in this entire scenario in order to build up more kind of propaganda against China, which is also possible. But at the same time, let's question things from all perspectives, because Homeland Security, Apple, Amazon, the CIA, they don't have the best track record of being honest. And this is very embarrassing of them. And it wouldn't surprise me if they are backtracking on this and denying this in order to deal with this in a way where they could actually save face and actually deal with some of the larger repercussions of this larger Chinese infiltration. That's also one possibility. But again, the threat of the Chinese can't be understated here, because they are continually expanding, especially not only with their military, but also with their bigger political ideologies. And they have plans not only for the South Chinese Sea military bases, but they plan on expanding those all throughout the Pacific Ocean. And already we are seeing the Australian military, the Japanese military, the Korean military, all bolster up their forces in preparation towards the bigger expansion of China, similar to the expansion that happened with the United States in the early 1900s. This is the phase that China is in now, especially as a country, as they're developing. And even there's a former Fed governor that warns that there's going to be several decades of Cold War with China. This is all heading into that same trajectory, mainly because China is a new emerging power, and it looks like it wants to be the dominating power. The United States is the current dominating power, and historically, whenever you have a rising power challenging the hegemony of one power, there always is conflict before that. So this is a serious issue that I'm taking very seriously, unlike a lot of other people, because the repercussions of this are huge. And China has been very aggressive, not only with their military expansion, but also bigger political moves. Like we just saw the head of Interpol being arrested in China after he was investigating, of course, Chinese people and Chinese government officials. He was detained by Chinese disciplinary authorities, and his whereabouts are still unknown about this big situation that's unfolding. So again, China does not look like they're backing down. There does seem, whether in the next few years or even in the next few decades, that confrontation between the United States and China is inevitable. We're seeing the signs right now of their military expansion, of the larger trade talks, and this is an issue that I would keep a close eye on, which of course we're going to be doing here on this YouTube channel.
Well, Luke, I would say this. The possibility, for instance, that this hack, right, if it indeed happened, can you imagine the amount of consumer goods right now that are out there that would have to be recalled? The lawsuits would be off the chain. On the other level of that, first of all, there wouldn't be an amount of recalls. I mean, we'd be talking about hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of consumer devices across the board everywhere. Now, on the flip of that, if they could prove that, forget about the embarrassment, it would be next level trade war, and there would be all sorts of sanctions against China. So to me, there is, But
you have to understand, if there is a bigger trade war and a bigger economic war, especially against the petrodollar, if China goes down, the United States goes down. Their economies are so tied in together that, again, it's an extremely fragile situation. And one devastating impact on one market will have an effect on the other market. So they're correlated here. So this could also be the United States, Homeland Security, Apple, Amazon saving face, so they don't have to deal with the larger implications of what could be a very large possible Chinese hack that occurred.
Yeah, again, I think it's one of those things where they could be agreeing to just keep this hush-hush on both sides, if it's true. I don't know, man. It's a tough one for me to call. Because here's the other thing.
It is a tough one. We entertained all the different ideas here. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I'm still seeing a lot of talk about Conor and Khabib. We just got another super chat that we're going to get into in just a little bit. But all the possibilities were entertained here. And my whole assessment is that this definitely needs more eyes, especially with the growing tensions between these two world powers that are questioning each other's hegemony.
I just think with the article too, Luke, we have to look at the fact that somebody out there, especially in the tech industry, would have been on YouTube now taking one of these boards apart and saying, here it is, I've got the spy chip, and we haven't seen that. You know what I'm saying? Think about what world we live in. And there's enough information out there. The company out in California that was producing this stuff, they're saying high grade level servers is where this was taking place, but someone would have done it. So I'm remaining skeptical on all fronts here. That's all I want to say in closing.
Or it could be just rogue elements of the intelligence community, the 17 sources that Bloomberg used, trying to justify this as a bigger push against China. That could also be just rogue elements of that. That could also be one of the possibilities that we could entertain here.